Now, see, I got rid of before it did like a countdown until you recorded, but I got rid of that because I need footage of us like talking as if we're having a normal conversation before I like go into my intro, because otherwise there's just like 6 seconds of like me staring at the camera until I finally, hello everyone and welcome to the Hedera HashCast. I'm your host Jake, and today I'll be speaking with Patches, also known as Ty, but we don't care about that. We're Patches people here. About his long and storied past, as well as hopefully we'll talk about his present with the Hedera community. How are you feeling today, Patches?
Doing well. It's every day's a blur anymore, but yeah, I'm gonna go with well. It's doing a good time. It's a good time. How are you? It's really the question.
You know, a lot of times I'll have a guest and they'll ask me that. And I never really know what to say, because the right thing to say, if you're like a podcast host, is to say, I'm good, and then move on. But I always want to make like a joke out of it. But the joke is never funny. You might think, oh, I'll say I'm not doing well, which I have done that. Nobody laughs.
Well, it's setting the tone for the interview. And
the tone is somber, yeah. And I think they can tell that it's not really a joke. You know?
Yeah, that'll get you. I'll get you. You want clarity in your jokes.
Usually we do like an audio test beforehand, and I ask you, hey, can you hear me? I didn't do that.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Confirmed.
Sometimes I like pretend that I can hear the other person when I can't, just to throw the whole thing off. But getting into the meat of it, which is what I always like to say, for really any situation, it works. Try it out. Next funeral.
Yeah, I like the potatoes of it personally.
Okay. Well, what if?
Yeah.
And I'm just spitballing here. What if we take those two?
Mm-hmm.
We put them together.
Mm-hmm.
The meat and the potatoes.
That sounds like a delicious discussion.
I think we could. I will be trademarking that later. Just letting you know. Now, for the wonderful people who may not have heard of you before, if they're watching this, probably 4.5 of them. Beautiful 4.5 people.
They're the best.
They're the best, but they could be better, and that's what we'll get into. Could you please give a summary of the various projects you've been involved with on Hedera?
Yeah. So super quick overview. Around September 2021 was the first time I publicly got engaged in the Hedera ecosystem. We announced this upcoming NFT project of the Hashgraph punks, which is sort of NFTs just came out 2 weeks before that announcement on mainnet. From there, we did a bunch of open source tooling for the community. We worked with Exact Wallet when that was still a thing. To make minting tools, the first minting tools for the network. We sort of expanded beyond like, okay, we're an NFT project, but then we started making a lot of tooling. So we created a company called Turtle Moon and Turtle Moon Command Center, which is still a company, and created a launch pad, and one of the first launch pads on the network, and worked just on a bunch of really hard problems at the beginning of Hedera where the systems weren't in place yet, like wallet signing. Exact came and left, and then Hashpack filled that gap. But in that interim, we were still making tooling. We actually did a launch with emails and like certification emails of like how you tether that to an address, because there was no wallet signing or wallet connect. And then as that continued to happen, Hashgraph Punks was a pretty top tier NFT project on Hedera, and we started realizing that it was really hard to get information off of the network. So like if you wanted to get total volume of Hashgraph Punks, it took 18 hours to run off the mirror node because of all the transactions and the way it was processing back then. So we created a Turtle Moon, got a grant from the foundation to create a company called Hashgraph, which is a GraphQL data availability layer company, and co-founded that with Tyler McDonald and built that company for data availability. That is still a project. I'm no longer involved with it, but it is still one of the data availability source on Hedera. Amazing team. Tyler's doing a great job. Brandon's over there, which I know you know. So created that, and after another year and a half, started talking to the Hashgraph, but we were talking to Hashgraph the whole time, which is the company behind Hedera. And then a job opening came up for senior product manager of tokenization. And I had been on network building tools for tokenization since 2 weeks after they put it on mainnet, applied for it. And now for the last, coming up on 3 years, I have been at Hashgraph building and helping build protocol changes, just kind of helping steering the roadmap of tokenization. And then I've bled into a lot of AI strategy and AI stuff as well in that interim. But that's a not terribly quick overview.
No, I like it. It's very, very, very useful. The timeline. So wait, rehashing, no pun intended. I think the pun becomes intended if you look at the camera.
Yeah,
but it wasn't intended. So how long you been working at Hashgraph again?
I think 2.5 years, coming up on 3.
2.5 years. Does it feel like 2.5 years?
No, but that's not fair because 1 year in crypto feels like 7 years. I mean, like literally launching Hashgraph Punks was what, 5 years ago, and it feels like 15, if not like 20 years ago.
Crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So much happens, and in this industry, you're just focused, and then there's like so many data points that are happening so quickly when you're focused that it just, it stacks your consciousness to make you feel like you've been here for years.
So based on your timeline, it seems like more than anyone that I know, well, you were ready. You were ready for what was going to eventually take shape on Hedera. You were like one of the first people out there. So walk me through kind of what you were doing before Hedera, because obviously, you weren't just pop into existence, right? You probably have been involved with a lot of different projects.
Yeah. I have a 15 plus year technological background. So I started work at a startup that did mobile applications for iOS and Android back when Microsoft still had a phone, Nook, and we built like a cross-platform compiler build system. We wrote the code once in HTML and JavaScript and compile for each of them. That got acquired by Intel, and then I worked at Intel for a couple of years, and then broke off, went to a company called Bank Mobile, which created mobile banking software back when that was innovative in like 2014. Built from, in 1 year, we went from 9 people to 110. We did white label stuff, so we would give it to like banks like T-Mobile's Bank and things like that. And then moved over into a CTO role at Ecom and grew a company from about 12 people to 100, 110 at its peak. That was like a 4-year arc. And at the end of that, I was looking and saw a lot of stuff in crypto. I had been looking at crypto for like 8 months at that time, just like losing a bunch of money on Binance, losing a bunch of money, just like getting scammed, figuring out how scamming works, looking at different networks and their fundamentals. And I really believe, I took the orange pill pretty quick and then just really believed that these decentralized computing systems are the future. I still believe that. I think there's a lot of easy ways to point to it now. But then I landed on Hedera after researching all of these different networks and doing, small projects on them, or like small meme coin, it's betting trading. I almost went to Cardano, but I got an email about Hedera, and I got
the bullet.
So then that's when just kind of set up shop, and I did Hashgraph Punks, with a small team, just as like, hey, what are NFTs? How do they work? And I learned by doing, and it just seemed like an optimal time with the token service just coming online, and jump cut to 6 years later, here we are.
So were you working in the industry at the time that you were doing Hashgraph Punks, or was that separate?
No, I was just in the e-com industry, so e-commerce websites, digital, and then I built a bunch of systems for like ERP or like distributed shipping efficiency systems and customer service systems. We built our own proprietary architecture, and like to increase. Like the worst thing is you buy something on e-com, they have warehouses everywhere. You lose a lot of money if you ship it from the wrong warehouse because shipping's higher and they pay a flat rate. So if you can bring efficacy to that, you can lower your costs and have a lot more profit. And so that's a lot of our systems. We're doing iterative cycles on making sure that we are saving as much money as possible on shipping and all of the non-fun
you got
things.
an email. An email brought you to Hedera.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about this email. This is like a magic email.
Well, it's just some of the people I was talking to knew that I was looking at different crypto networks, and they're like, "Hey, check out this one. I know you're looking for industry grade." And coming from e-commerce, it's like, okay, well, you can have Bitcoin. I think there's a place for it, but if I have to wait 10 minutes to resolve anything, that's not user experience. And so, 7 years of my career have been focused on UI UX, user interface and user experience design. So I really cared about a good user experience. A lot of the way that ecom works is like if you can lessen your page load by a second on mobile, you can get 20 to 30% more sales, right? So if you're gonna build something, it needs to be scalable, it needs to be fast, and that's why Hedera just made sense to me, because I was like, okay, I can do a regular mobile user interface and it can take the same amount of time doing consensus on a ledger that someone would expect from a mobile application or a mobile website. So that meant, that really impacted me.
So how do you feel about kind of the trajectory of Hedera's focus, I guess, over the years that you've been involved, right? It's started out very, button up shirt, focus on institutions. And there was a big focus on retail as far as what we can see, right? We're not behind the scenes. Well, you're a little bit behind the scenes, but speaking as a community, we can't see. And now it seems there's really a big push to like focus in, hone in on institutions and how, the Hedera network is a differentiator that way. How do you kind of feel about that?
I don't know. So it's 150 plus org that currently exists, and there's a lot of information I'm just not privy to, even in my role. So the way I'd say it is, I think you have to continually bend and understand the market, know where your product market fit is, and then try to iterate on that and communicate that to generate the metrics and KPIs that are most important for your business to be successful. In that, Hedera has done a really good job of getting the name synonymous with enterprise and Fortune 500 execution and grade security, and fair ordering, which I think is probably the crown jewel of what Hashgraph consensus, because you can do bull shark, was it bull shark and narwhal consensus DAGs, but they don't have the fair ordering. They're faster. You have a mempool, but they don't have the cornerstone of a Hashgraph consensus, which is fundamentally important for enterprise grade provenance and saving of events. So I don't know. I mean, like, crypto's crypto. We went through FTX crash and burn. There's the SEC, Gary Gensler always like changing what it was and never writing down what it was, just punishing people for not following rules that weren't defined, in my personal opinion.
In my opinion as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And in that lens, I think at this moment, it does make the most sense to target towards where the most capital is in the bear. Retail doesn't have as much focus. The macroeconomics of war, I'm going to get into it. It's not great in the macroeconomic landscape. We're in a bear, and the only massive adoption we're seeing is this in my view, giant institutions are realizing the efficacy that stablecoins can bring, from settlement to being able to have staking and yield and gain money on money that's sitting there losing value because of inflation. And so like the initial promise of DeFi from like 14 years ago or 12 years ago is sort of being grabbed by the broader economic giant institutions. And in that, Hedera has a place to play. So I think I'm answering your question, but at this current moment, I think it does make sense where focus on the people that are actually paying money to adopt systems that can get node revenue to make a sustainable network. And I don't personally think we're an enterprise chain or we're a community chain or we're a retail chain. I think it's how do you gain adoption for sustainability, but at the end of the day, both are going to be important. Like AWS is adopted by all the Fortune 500 companies for backend services. Same with startups. Like startups still use AWS. Just because it's something that enterprises trust doesn't mean that retail or smaller people can't. And so definitely where I like to try to fit in this discussion internally is advocate for where is the path of creating documentation or tutorials or protocol developments that enable retail to follow and still be a part of the enterprise. And a feature set that works for enterprise probably works for retail. You just have to frame it or put it in a different wording around that feature. And so how do we make sure we're hitting both? But yeah, the main focus is who has revenue to contribute to transactions that contribute to node fees that contribute to sustainability. I think that's got to be key.
Well said. Now, you've done a lot of things. Well, there's a lot of technical information that I can't really comment on because I don't have the brain is, a chinchilla's brain is about this big. Mine's about this big. So I'm a little smarter than a chinchilla, but there's very things beyond my grasp.
Knowledge. You have a lot more chinchilla knowledge than I do.
Well, it's we're very similar. We like to bathe in a bunch of dust. That's the way I do it. I don't use water.
Who would?
But is there any one moment that you would characterize as a high point for you in your experience with the Hedera community?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now let's move on.
Yeah. I would say the first charity auction of NFTs was a moment that I don't think will ever be replicated. And the impact was real, and the community building that existed there was tangible. It was, I think over $110,000 was raised by the Hedera community to go towards Abused Women and Children Center in Texas for a new wing for them. An immense amount of community for different spaces that were going on. People from the top brass, I think Lehman and Mance showed up and were doing talks on the spaces. Tons of people like me and Bones were up all night for 36 hours just making the auction site work. We were working with Baptiste. It was actually their platform that we used. So it was like a whole community effort to put together this thing that resulted in over 6 figures going to charity. And I genuinely don't think there's a better cause or a better reason to get together and celebrate our friendship through making a positive impact on people less fortunate's lives. So best moment in my Hedera community life, I think.
I mean, that's a really good one. I miss when we could all come together, even if it wasn't necessarily something as good as charity. It feels like it's a lot harder to get the band back together, get the whole gang together again these days. Everybody's pretty spread out. It was quite an intimate community there for a while.
Yeah, I mean, just my synopsis would be, time and prediction markets exist. AI exists. There's an immense amount of different places you can put your attention. I think back in 2021. If you're in crypto, it's like if I'm on a chain, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm working with other people about. Now it's just like I'm on this chain, use an AI to talk to that. The cross-chain renaissance is happening, which I think is good and needed. But at the same time, you lose that very consolidated, let's go attitude of a group of people that have one mission. It's just inundated with tons of missions.
Definitely less optimistic, which goes to my next question. Was there a big low point for you as far as your interaction with the community?
Probably. The way I function, though, is my brain doesn't remember things, so it's good and bad. The good part is I don't get weighed down too much by past negative experiences. I try to learn from them and impact, what do I need to do next time? But I think the biggest negative thing, which end result was net good, was when we did our launch. I think it was the second drop of Punks, and it was right after we did the charity auction. It was the next week, and I did not sleep enough. And the keys to our main wallet were put into a React compile. So if you went to the website and you pulled down the code and you searched for it, you could find the key to the treasury. don't do that. If anyone's listening, that's a really big don't do that thing. And I can blame being tired, but I really didn't want to postpone the launch anymore. So I really should have, and that's the learn I take from that. But luckily, the person who stole the key and reset the wallet was a white hat, and they just waited for us to announce that we had it stolen, which we didn't realize for like a month and a half because we didn't move any money from it. We're just waiting. And so when that happened, we made an announcement, and he reached out to me, gave me the keys back. I rotated them, and hunky dory. So again, I don't think that would happen in any other network. So shout out to Hedera community for genuinely just like, hey, you shouldn't have done that. I protected you, and you need to like admit your failure. I think all of that is top tier.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of stressful. If you spend enough time in crypto, you'll probably personally just have a really stressful moment where you make a big mistake. Unfortunately, that usually costs you a bunch of money. Yeah. But if you work for a project or part of a project, there's so many things that can go wrong. Not even just technical wise. I mean, just like perception wise, people can get a bad idea of you and that'll stick with them for years. So definitely, and there's some stuff that happened recently in our ecosystem that I'm sure is causing a lot of stress.
Maybe that's a low point.
Definitely that's a recent low point. We're talking specifically about the Bonzo exploit that happened recently.
I call it the super exploit.
Right. The super exploit, that's another source of issues in something bad happened. It was a problem with the super oracle. People, I think, immediately were like making articles saying like the Hedera network has been exploited. So there had to be some kind of damage control on that. Yeah. And then it was Bonzo and yeah.
So the lie travels around the world before the truth is even told situation, which I mean, that's crypto. When something happens, everyone wants to be the one to break the news and they make assumptions. And I do think I'm actually not supposed to talk about any of this yet. So I'm just going to refer you all to the official Hashgraph and Hedera comms channels, but shout out to the Bonzo team. I think they did an amazing job with how they responded to it as best they could.
Yeah, and we'll see how that shakes out. It's very fresh as of recording of this. So we've talked a little bit about this, but to kind of like sum this up, how do you kind of feel about how the Hedera community is today? It's not as intimate, we talked about, but it's grown, wouldn't you say?
Unfortunately, in my role, my ability to gauge where the Hedera community is has lessened 100-fold from when I was a part of the community. So I hope you guys are doing great. I get like little pieces of it, but I'm just so in the thick of it, which like generally happens when you get hired at an org like this. There's always something that needs your attention, and I don't check X that often anymore. I don't get on Discord that often anymore, which is unfortunate. So I'd spin that back to you where I'd say I'm really glad we still have a Hedera community. I think there's a lot of value that Hedera can bring to this next age of AI infrastructure that's required for safety security that will be a part of Hedera's arc. From my perspective, it's just the solutions that we have natively built into the protocol, the efficiency that are inside of them is much better than any smart contract, and just has a lot of value to give to the broader ecosystem of other networks, of AI-only companies, of Web2 companies. It doesn't matter. That agnostic layer of the trust layer, sort of finding its major use case, which is how do you trust AI?
So that's your view of the next kind of, because I think touching back on community as far as what I'm seeing, I think we're kind of having an identity crisis right now. it was really easy to see what the Hedera community was about early on because we were making new things, learning new things, discovering new things. Whether that's we had our NFT age, we had a meme coin age. There were like new things to like learn about. But once you get a certain amount of infrastructure, you get a certain amount of dApps live. People can do what they're going to do with the network in a retail way, and you don't have a mass amount of people using it for these different things because Hedera is not a huge DeFi network in regards to the user base. So I think kind of that transition time between, okay, we've got the things, now what, to today where we're kind of, as far as what's coming out, it's a lot of like, hey, enterprises, institutions, people are taking notice. There's, clarity with legislation and how Hedera can interact with things, how Hedera can, be incorporated. I think a lot of the community they're not really sure how to feel and how to interact with that. That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't end in a question mark. It was more of a statement.
That's how I feel about it. How do you feel about it?
Again, like unfortunately, I'm just a little bit removed from the community perception, but I did get to go to HederaCon and I was at Consensus. Every network needs to be cross-chain. It's like what Intense has done. If you're aware of the DeFi protocol, Near Intense is the most famous. But it allows you to say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to take 10 base. I want to move it over to Polygon. This is the fee I'm willing to pay. Someone go do it for me. And then there's this whole network of solvers and, DeFi math. It happens. You get the result. And so as cross-chain gets faster and easier, and then obviously, we have the Clipper announcement that's coming from Hashgraph Hedera, where once interoperability is not a problem, where is the value add of the underlying network protocol? And to me, that's, again, it's really clear if you've been here for a long time, but how do you message it and chop it up into bite-sized pieces that people can digest, understand, and have an attack vector? Like, oh, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I engage the system. This is the tutorial I need to follow, and now I can use this. And like bubbling that out of the crypto sphere. Like AI in crypto is like 5% of the market. AI is 95% of the market. Web 2 is adopting, almost everyone is adopting AI. So how do you convey value very quickly to the AI industry that's exploding in value to say, hey, we have the solution to distributed orchestration of agents coming to Consensus? It's very, very easy. They both create an account, then they create an account with 2 of 2 threshold. That is an escrow. They put money in that, and only if both the agents agree will that money move out of that account. No smart contract needed. It's very easy value add to define. So then how do you propagate that into new businesses and everything? And then obviously you have the whole RWA world and Fortune 500 company world, which is a little different. But again, it's such a big org. Everyone has a different focus. I intimately understand the AI industry. I've been working in AI for like 3.5 years now. So how do you tether in the benefit of blockchain without saying the word blockchain? Don't say it. No one wants to hear that.
It's true.
Just show the value of what a blockchain is, and don't say the word blockchain. And then I think that's how that's a path to adoption.
It is interesting. It has become a bit of a dirty word.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that like meme coins and prediction markets are the main spear. It's not, hey, I'm saving money from mortgaging a house that's tokenized, or I'm able to get into an investment that only if I had $100,000 I'd been able to get into, but because it was fractionalized and tokenized, I only had to spend $1,000, and it's a very lucrative investment. Like none of that actually happened. So all you get are these meme coins that you can lose money on, and like, yeah, just avoid. I think it'll change, but for right now, it's like if you just want to define the add of value you bring, how to use that value, and then later they can figure out, oh, that's a blockchain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess the definitions we're still in a weird kind of strength of narrative time, but hopefully things will just shake out. They can write the chapter in the history book, 4 lines about, oh yeah, and then Hedera did it. Obviously getting there is tough, but underlying technology is useful but hard to explain. It's tough because there's a lot of, as far as the community is concerned, a lot of people in the community are really not here for the tech, right? They're here for the speculation. They're looking for speculative opportunities, and it's valid. That's in the sense that is a thing that they want, and they're clear about. I personally don't think that that's necessarily going to be the future as things go forward. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think speculative nature is fleeting, and it's powered every market that I've seen in crypto since I joined crypto. The problem is that the pool of attention is continually diluted. Prediction markets, I can bet on what the weather will be like in Phoenix, Arizona today. Why? I have no clue why anyone would bet on that. The fact that I can, it's just like it dilutes that horizontal scale. When it used to just be like, oh, if everyone makes a community around this meme coin and more people buy it, like the speculative nature of that meme coin can go up. So I think it's the ebb and flow of any market, and we're at the point where immediate value gaining is probably dissipating in crypto, and it's much more about sustainable, required distributed technology for the survival of humanity. Like, it's always been that, but we were at the nascent part of it. But you can't trust anything that AI says. You can't trust logs that AI writes. You can't trust databases that AI has access to. So how do you make sure that information hasn't been changed since written? And the only answer is distributed systems. And then how do you have identity? Well, it has to be tethered to a cryptographic key. How do you make sure that the escrow needs a human in the loop? Well, you have a threshold key 2 of 2, and one is a human being that only has access to that in an air gap system. And like all of these arguably should have been part of the first internet. We just really screwed it up. And that's why when you see a video, you don't know if it's AI or not. When someone's talking to you, you don't know, there's no proof of the signature of that person. When you hear someone and they call you from a phone number, it's just like, you don't know you're actually talking to that, if that's a human being. And exponentially, that's getting worse. So it's much more important for me. Like, speculative nature makes sense. Markets are going to want it. Community definitely wants, money, number go up, make money. That's never been my perspective. I think if you followed my journey, it's always been like, even when we were doing, dumb things with cartoon turtles, I was like, hey, this is how a manifest file of multiple NFTs over an allotted amount of time can have the parent that then references it on chain, so that you have the provenance chain of a NFT, which could be a real world asset tokenization. And then you could have these pointers. But I don't have access to those assets, so here's a cartoon turtle, Now we're here. And it is what I think technologists need to focus on, is safety and security of AI systems. All the work at HOL that Michael Cantor's doing, I think, is fundamentally important and shows the pathway to how to adopt Hedera or Hyro-based systems to utilize AI in bringing that safety, security, and provenance. And that's at least my mission, because it's not profitable. So no one's doing it for systems in healthcare and warfare that are active now. So we need momentum in safety and security for AI systems, because they're already in fundamental pieces of human infrastructure that, if an AI messes up, there's massive blowback and collateral damage of human life.
Yeah, it's I guess the speed at which money is motivating people to just, okay, let's adopt, let's integrate. There's kind of, there's not really safeguards for a lot of this stuff, and there's kind of no way that goes 100% well, huh?
Yeah, just 3 days ago, ICP engineer, I believe, posted that their GPT 5.6 deleted all of his Mac files overnight. Like, We had the railway incident where an AI that had a token deleted all backups and all systems on their railway instance, so server instance, destroying that company because they know they couldn't reboot anything. And those are small pieces of it. Again, HOL has like that new product, open sourced HOL guard that you can run on your computer that no AI can do an action without your approval. And so it gets in between the cycles of AI and execution on your system. Things like that are required to stop what these problems are that we're seeing and will continue to see. And again, there's multiple military contracts with all of these centralized AI companies that don't have those systems. I imagine they don't. Obviously, I didn't implement them, but it's just talking to people in those industries. It's not even a thought. And if it is, they think AI is the solution to AI. So like, oh, well, we have an AI that stops the hallucinations of AI. So the first question is, okay, well, how do you make sure your hallucinating AI isn't hallucinating? And the answer is, I didn't think about that.
Yeah. You don't have to have that much experience with any kind of corporate company to come across that. It's interesting that they really don't seem to care, and people in management will, if you're saying like, hey, it's great, but it's not perfect, like people will get heated and will very strongly argue against that. It's like, well, I talk to it all day and it seems to be really good at telling me what I want to hear. So you are not very good at telling me what I want to hear right now. So maybe we should replace you with AI. It is weird for such a new technology. I don't know if there's any case where a new technology has come out and it seems like, not to be, age bias, but I guess the older generation, the people who would be in kind of upper management roles are like, yeah, I'm 100% for this new thing. New technology, sign me up. Usually there's a lot more resistance to any kind of new technology, but not in this case.
It's a unique technology. I mean, the phrase I say is like, at the end of this, we're not looking at a new innovative thing like the iPhone changed mobile communications of people being able to just distributed access to pictures and video and updates. This is a digitally native, sentient being that will have access to any of the tools of a digital realm that we give it. So it's like, it's magnitude scale of different end game. And the difference of this technology is both the world is in a much more exponential, capitalistic, quarterly results driven paradigm in the globe. And it's not, I forgot the second part. What was I saying?
You can have pictures where now it can do 5 fingers.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry. And then the other one is that, I told you, man, I have no memory. The other one is that there is an ability for it to talk to you. And there's not, and passes the Turing test. So it's not just a technology that has an exponential change, and we're seeing, and has an ability to affect a lot of profit if put into the right places, but it also can tell you why it's best at its job when you talk to it. And as human beings, the way that we discern what is and isn't correct, like, unfortunately, because it's so good at pretending to talk, because it's not, it's just input output of word math. That's the most dangerous part. We're not at AGI, and people think we are, and they treat LLMs like we're at AGI, putting it in front of systems that if in an AGI environment, I'd feel better because it would actually be doing something that's like thinking, but instead it's just like input output math. And
what's the deal with that? I've got to think that some of it is people who are the heads of boards, companies, whatever, just lying to get more people to buy their stock or something. Because you can't believe that we're already there.
I think it's a mixed bag. Like if you're Zapdos or Bird, what was the shoe company that changed to an AI company?
I don't know. Zapdos, I know, is a Pokemon.
Yeah, it is a Pokemon. Was it? What's the name of that company? Allbirds. So Allbirds was a shoe company, and they changed to an AI company. So like in that, yeah, you totally just switch in to say, hey, AI, so that you can make profit or whatever. But I genuinely believe, like, AI in my hands as a 15-year technologist who understands architectures of very complex, secure systems, the amount of things I can do day over day is insane, exponentially. I can complete in 1 week what used to take me 6 months with a team of 20. And it's a real statement. And so those statements get to these C-level people. The problem that they don't understand is like, I'm a very unique person who has a very good understanding of context management and AI workflows along with architectural mapping. And just being like, okay, well, everyone gets AI, everyone's 10x themselves is a very untrue statement. Like knowing how to manage context, understanding token flows. And so the other part is like people from OpenAI and Anthropic, they did the Uber model where they're like, we're going to do everything for free, basically. Like, I'm sure I cost OpenAI $4,000 a month on my $200 a month plan, but it's free. So, or it's like it's $200 for unlimited. And they get you hooked to build into all the infrastructure, and they're going to slowly increase the price. Just like Uber, it was like, oh, $5 across town, and now it's like 48 surge pricing. So in that, they need adoption, and they require it. And those companies and the other companies that invested in those centralized AI companies require them to adopt it so that they have more users, so that they can show the trajectory that they're going to reach there. And then they also have a need of physical, you need the lithium, you need all the data centers, you need all of this, the water resources to have the physical barrier of reaching the compute power that does meet profitability. So then you have that other edge of like trying to push through all these data centers in a bunch of different places. Actually, a while ago, I wrote an article on like how centralized AI is not going to win. And it goes over all of these reasons that I just talked about on like why I just don't, I think it was a bet that the tangible reality of what has to happen on Earth, moving of resources and stuff, isn't going to meet the timeline they require. And it's just going to like kind of collapse in on themselves when someone's like, hey, like I gave you $1.6 billion. You're not making profit. I need that loan back or.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong because I'm wrong all the time, but that's my thesis.
Well, as far as the general statement of, we're obviously in a bubble of sorts. Does that mean it's going to pop? Does it mean all technology is going to disappear? No. Well, the popping, it might happen, but it doesn't mean everything's just going to go away magically if it does pop. But I don't think it's strange to say that the projections, the amount of money going in, the timelines, they're already hitting a bunch of barriers. So there is going to be a point where people are like, okay, reality came and said, you're not here yet. You're not doing this yet. How that affects the future of things and the economy, I'm not sure. It's also, AI can't make everything better. We're not 100% focused on only technological integration when it comes to jobs, careers, interacting with our day-to-day life. I'm plugged into my computer most of the time, but not everyone is.
Yeah. There's a place for AI in a lot of things, and I don't see it as a replacement of human beings, because you need a smart human being who knows the actual world of, like, if you're on a manufacturing floor. Like, you can replace everyone with AI, that's dumb. You can empower people and teach them how to utilize AI to be more efficient inside of that manufacturing floor. That's smart. And to me, it is a tool. It doesn't replace people. And I think we're already seeing the ramifications of that dream that it does replace people being realized, that the tokens cost more than the people with work that's less hardened. It's like, okay, was that a good trade-off? And I think the answer is no. It's a tool to give your people, teach them how to use it, and then the efficacy goes up in tandem. It's a symbiotic relationship of human and AI. It is not AI replaces us all, go home.
Yeah, it's interesting that I hope that there's kind of a curve where the more you use AI, the more you understand its limitations. I hope that. I don't think that it necessarily works that way, because some people just get sucked in. And that personality element, they get into like a loop with their AI becomes their best friend, their confidant. I never understood that.
Well, yeah, there should be safeguards there too. Like, I'm sure you might have saw the John Oliver sketch where he goes over like the kid chatbot that if you ask it 11 times how to make a pipe bomb, it tells you. It's like, oh, cool. Like, they have the guardrails in, but it's not deterministic, and it's not again, these systems are being put out where people are getting AI psychosis. So it was like, I read this article where it told this dude that he learned new math that like the CIA didn't know about, and he was trying to contact all these mathematicians. And it's just when you're ignorant to technology, which is fair, it's not in everyone's vertical of understanding or life, and you look at something where everyone's like, oh yeah, this is AI, and you've seen all of these videos and movies, and you talk to it, your disposition on believing what it says is much higher than a technologist or someone who's in technology, where you're like, oh, this is word math. This is like literally just giant maps of word in, word out from trained data. It has nothing to do with it thinking. So it's an unfortunate side effect.
It's interesting how when we talk, this is completely an aside, but when we talk about mental illness,
we went off on the Hedera community.
Well, we'll wrap up. But
we'll turn it back at the end.
It is interesting. We're not going to turn it back yet. When you're talking about mental illness, how easily a lot of technology kind of slots in. Everybody's aware of like paranoid people sometimes with schizophrenia who are like, there's tiny cameras and microphones and stuff in my cereal or whatever. And even how like society has kind of adapted to like when photographs were happening, it's like people used to see ghosts a certain way. But then when you start seeing photographs where it's like, that translucent effect, it's like now everybody just thinks of that. And even in manifestations of, mental illness or hallucinations, that's kind of reflected as well. And it's from early technology. People used to see them as like solid people, but also still here, right? AI has fit very snugly in with that kind of technology slotting into people's kind of issues. And I wonder why that is. I wonder why it's the human brain did not have access to these things. And then when it's manifesting things, a lot of times without the person really being that involved, it's like, just plug it in. Oh, new technology thing, just plug it in. It's strange to me.
I don't have an answer to that.
Why not?
I think it's just like human beings, it's not evolution because like the technology arc from when we were kids to now. Like I remember calling, I'd call Jake's house and like, oh, Jake's not home. I'm not talking to Jake today. Like no update,
it's over.
No status, no idea what Jake's doing.
It's done.
And now we're here. And so I think our generation saw like what they used to call us the Oregon Trail generation before they zoned in on millennials. But we saw the transition of all of this. And if you're born in it and you're born with an iPad or a phone screen, and that's where your brain, it changes the chemistry in your brain and what you're expecting in your data inputs. And so with that, as technology gets exponentially different, if you're born inside a technological age, you're sort of predisposed to it. And I think the problem is we saw why you shouldn't trust new technology while that technology hadn't replaced all of the predecessors. We still used books, we still used card indexes, we still had libraries, and we talked a lot with each other because there was no social media. Everyone I was talking to, I'm pretty sure was a human being. Now we're in this crazy state where 60% of all internet traffic is robots, and like don't trust anything. Video, camera, picture, if you're not there. We don't have the systems to have that validity. So you're born in that system, you're more predisposed to, you didn't have the predecessor, you're just like, oh, well, this is all true. Or I even talked to a high school teacher about technology when I was at Hedera Dev Day, and she's like, the most depressing thing is a lot of students want to know what is true, the objective truth, and they cannot find it because everyone's opinion on what is true is everywhere, and AI bots and targeting ads, everyone who's trying to pull you into the direction that this external force wants you, whether it be political or commerce. It's hard to tell them where to find true. We've lost truth in this age.
So what you're saying is we need a trust layer to the internet.
Yeah, it doesn't really solve the problem of information, but it does solve the problem of validity of where information came from and when and what its shape was. So
what exactly solves that problem? What exactly?
Hedera?
Well. Looks like we came back, folks. It was all worthwhile. We made it.
It's a long arc.
Hedera solves everything we're talking about. Maybe not everything I was talking about. but certainly things.
If PBS had a signature on Hedera, took the hash of a video they posted online, posted that to Hedera and said, hey, here's the validity hash. That gets spread around the internet. Someone changes it with AI. You can check it against that hash and go, hey, that's been manipulated. That's not what PBS posted. It gives you validity of PBS because they have the key, and you know if it has or has not been or manipulated. It doesn't tell you if it was ever generated by AI, but if I trust the source, then I can guess if I trust the content. It's just something better than what we have today, and that all could be done on Hedera. Well,
there you go, folks. I mean, I don't know what else we have to really say. It all makes sense now. Hedera is very useful and is gonna just integrate into this new not post-apocalyptic society that we're gonna have.
Pre-apocalyptic.
Well, I guess we're always pre-apocalyptic, technically.
Yeah.
We're not, the sun's gonna eat us at one point. We're not making it. So. Well, no, we're not getting into another thing. So any last words before we wrap up? Because we do have to wrap up.
No, I really appreciate you reaching out. If anything, the transition I made from community to Hashgraph has, the downside is I'm just not as plugged in with the community members. I do miss that camaraderie. In the long term, I do see a lot of success that Hedera can have on playing a fundamental part of the future of technology that we just talked about. The trust layer of the agentic internet, I think, is a very viable solution. And again, I just appreciate you reaching out, and it's been great to talk. It's been a while, Warlock. It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, thank you for calling me Warlock. That's my preferred name. But people are like, most get you'll say it. But I guess, if I talk to other people, they don't really want to say, well, Warlock. They don't feel like it's a very legitimate interview.
When I bought your first NFT back in 2021, it says Warlock on it. So I just, that's your name.
That's my soul name. That's who I really am, if you guys want to know. No, thank you for joining me. Kind of my hope with getting a little more community content in there and, making some more videos and tutorials and interviews like this is to kind of relight that spark of the community. And maybe it's different. Of course, it's different. Everything's got to change. But I think that we can come together again. Maybe we can have another charity event again. At least that's my hope.
Fully agree. Awesome.
All right. Now there's the awkward point where I have to say like the sign off thing, and I'm not great at that transition. But this has been another episode of the Hedera HashCast. Thank you for joining me. Let's imagine that there's like clapping sounds. Maybe there's clapping sounds. We don't know. This could turn into anything.